The attack came in the middle of the night on October 3rd and reduced the hospital to ruins. About 180 staff and patients were inside the hospital when a U.S. gunship launched an overhead assault that lasted for more than an hour.
The level of destruction is terrible. All parts of the hospital have been, all the main parts of the hospital have been attacked and destroyed. The part we're in now caught fire.
Some patients were burned to death in their beds. Staff and relatives of patients had to hide in the basement through the night, then work to treat the wounded. The U.S. military issued conflicting statements about the air attack. At first, it said it was to protect U.S. forces under fire and the hospital was collateral damage. Then it said Afghan forces called for air support because there were fighters nearby, before admitting that U.S. forces were responsible and it was a mistake. Doctors Without Borders says it had informed all parties several times of its exact location.
In the hours before the attack, the hospital was calm, the whole area was calm. There was no fighting in and around the hospital at that moment when the attack took place. So we still have not got any explanation for this terrible breach of international humanitarian law.
U.S. President Barack Obama apologized for the incident and said the U.S. would pay compensation to the victims and offered to help rebuild the hospital. The charity does not accept government money. Doctors Without Borders wants an independent investigation, and the International Humanitarian Fact-Finding Commission is involved. But it needs the consent of the two states, Afghanistan and the United States. And U.S. officials say the three investigations by NATO, the U.S. military, and Afghan officials will be sufficient. Already there's tension over the investigations. The gate of the hospital had to be repaired after NATO troops knocked it down with an armored vehicle on Thursday.
We let them inspect the building to look at the damage that actually they were responsible for. But however, we completely reject the fact that they didn't inform us in advance and they just knocked the gate down and came in.
NATO forces say they were unaware that there were Doctors Without Borders personnel present and went to the compound to search for unexploded ordnance and do a structural assessment of the buildings. One remains intact but empty. The hospital, the only trauma center in the region, is closed, and right now there are no plans to rebuild. Doctors Without Borders says it needs to find out how and why its hospital was attacked and be guaranteed it won't happen again. Jennifer Glasse, Al Jazeera, Kabul.